Hello, Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, and my friends. Shalom. In life, it's not what happened that matters, but it is what you do of what happened that makes all the difference. Growing up and raised in a Muslim household, a very traditional, a very strict Muslim practice, I learned a great deal how to cope with confusion, how to cope with challenges about the religion that I was born into, that no faults of my own. But as an adult, you have a choice. You can think. You're not free, right? So that's what I learned. So I take a liberty to own a responsibility to think and to educate myself about the book, one of the most challenging books I think that I ever read, for anybody for that matter, and that is the Qur'an, and how to understand and what to make sense of it. So this is the Qur'an in my hand. Mostly the Qur'an has been translated to the lens of religion, of Islam. But largely, the translation has been skewed and purported to the degree to which to serve the traditions of Hadith and to establish the religion of Islam. For those who are comfortable with being told, probably they don't have any problem with the translations that they read, if they do read at all, because most Muslims, they just memorize and hopefully will get a blessing just from memorize. But for me, after observing the nature of translations that are available around, that are available to us these days, has not been satisfying to what I was looking for and to make a sense of it. So I like to share some thought what I have learned over the years by taking a different approach, and I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm going to point out what I have learned, and then you can figure out by your own, which you will do if you are true seekers, that the Quran rejects the notion of the last prophet or the seal of the prophets. Why? Because it is contradicts to the principles of nature. So وَخَتَمَ النَّبِي that you read in verse 40, chapter Al-Ahzab, doesn't mean the last prophet. It cannot be. So that means وَخَتَمَ النَّبِي is not the seal of Rasuls. Because the Quran rejects the notion of the last prophet, the Quran also rejects the notion of God that preached through or by the last prophet, in this case Muhammad, that's believed as the messenger of Islam. Also, the Quran rejects the notion of Islam itself, that known to us as a religion. So 5 times the word Muhammad occur in the Quran, but not a single one of them referring to a prophet that known to a Muslim that being studied across the globe, that articulated in Hadith and in Sirah Muhammad, in Asbabun Nuzul, and in Islamic scholarships. Not one of them of Muhammad that occur in the Quran referring to a prophet that we read, that we learn from the traditions of Islam. So that's quite significant, what I have learned. And it is, the Quran, it is a difficult book to read. But if you approach through nature, through principles of nature, if you're contemplating through how this nature works, the nature will tell you what real and what not real, and what is sensible and what is factual and what is not. Nature will teach you and walk you through what the reality is. So, and let me add, before I'm closing this video, the Quran appears to talk about consciousness. So the Quran seemed to me trying to articulate things that are going on around us within our consciousness. So La ilaha illa huwa, I can translate to mean there's no a deity to worship, because what we learn or what you have is basically consciousness. So La ilaha illa huwa, all that you are aware, what you have is consciousness. And that's why in the verse 11, chapter 13, Surah Ar-Ra'd, Inna Allaha la yughayru ma biqawmin hatta yughayru ma bi anfusihim. Humans cannot change the condition of their life until they change what's going on in their head, which is their mindset. So Inna Allaha must referring to our consciousness or our head. And so Allah is not a deity. Allah is not something that beyond your head. Allah must an entity within your head. And that's include anything that you read in the Quran must within your head. It cannot be above your head. That's what I learned, and that's what I think you should consider to how to approach the Quran. And I learned a great deal over the years, and that's one of those dimensions that I just share with you. And that makes all the difference. As it turns out, the majority of Muslims that read the Quran appears to be just accept whatever the traditions told them for the definitions of the verses that they read. Like I said, I just not satisfied what the tradition has presented to us about the nature. And by looking at different way of how to read the text of the Quran, that makes all the difference for me. And what I just shared with you about those 4 points, and I think that something you should try to learn yourself. It's not just taking what I presenting here. Take your time, go through it and study it and make your own conclusion. And I'm hoping that you make the most of it. As an adult, you have to take a responsibility for your own way of being. If you are born into a Muslim, and you shouldn't be stuck in dogmas and things that are not useful for you and for others. You should take responsibility and own it, and make the most of what was available to you. In this case, read the text and see where you can make sense, and trying to understand it, and trying to take the wisdom and apply in your life. So all for now, and until then.